Hi, my name is Kevin Thomas, W1DED, and this is Q5 Worldwide Ham Radio. I'm back with the contest crew, Randy K5ZD, Bill W9KNN, Chris KL9A. Our guest tonight is Jason CE3 stroke N5NU, joining us from Chile. Jason has been quietly pushing the limits of what portable contesting can look like. Serious contesting, but from a parks in the air setup. High-end operations, battery power, portable antennas, and still putting hundreds of QSOs in the log. In fact, during CQ Worldwide CW, he carried everything in a duffel bag and a backpack and still managed more than 800 QSOs in about 15 hours of operating. This episode of Q5 Ham Radio is proudly supported by DX Engineering, helping contesters, DXers, and portable operators build stations that perform when it matters most. Jason, welcome to Q5.
Hey, Kevin. Thank you for having me. I can't believe I'm here. Man, I'm enjoyed watching all of the episodes and keeping up with all the build-up for CQ Worldwide and for all the other events. So thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure.
Well, I recall that you were one of the very first Q5 interviews I did 2.5 years ago, so thank you for that.
Yes, I recall that. I had spent 9 months in Costa Rica and talked about my experience there. I've been in Chile here. Coming up real close to 3 years now. So
let's talk about portable contesting. Give us the summary of what you've been doing down there.
Well, it's out of necessity. I live on the 6th floor of an apartment building here. I'm in Las Condes, which is just outside of Santiago, Chile. And when I moved in here, I thought, oh man, awesome! I'm just gonna throw a wire out the window and go to town. And it was all good until I looked at the S meter and it's like S9 noise. I was like, well, I can't hear anybody. So basically it was born out of necessity. First time I went out was with just a quarter wave vertical. And I was like, well, this is left a lot to be desired. I mean, it worked 100 stations or so, but I've just quietly been just trying to build upon that and put out a better signal, despite what Chris says. And just be on the air and enjoy myself and still contest while living in an apartment.
So clearly your process has been evolving, but why don't we just fast forward ahead to the CQ Worldwide? Tell us about that, what you took on that trip and what you accomplished.
I made 2 trips in. So I hiked all this stuff into, I've got it's a park that's considered, like POTA considers it a park. It's not really that much of a park. It's just a bunch of bike trails where it is. But there's a big spot where I've got good takeoff to the US and to JA. And I hiked all this stuff in there, went back to the car and grabbed another load and hiked it all back in. I did essentially just 10 through 20 on that contest. I've got an antenna that is essentially a 2-element vertical beam on 10 and 15, and on 20 I've got a parasitic vertical array that I just fixed I just put it straight north. There's not really a whole lot south of here, so everything went basically north. So as far as battery wise, I've got 3 batteries. I've got they're all the lithium phosphate batteries, Life PO4 batteries, what they call them, and they're all all said and done, you're looking probably 8 to 10 hours between all of them.
So what was the total weight of what you carried in?
Probably 60 pounds or so. Probably 40 and 20.
Is there a shelter there where you were taking it, or did you just leave stuff and have to run back to the car?
I just left it out there. Well, I hid it under a bush. I bought a big, massive umbrella, essentially, to keep the sun off. So CQ Worldwide here is pretty hot, and the sun beats down onto you. So I bought this massive umbrella that kind of went over the station to just keep from burning to death out there. So that was part of the second trip, was that heavy, the biggest battery and that big umbrella.
How long does it take you to hike everything in from when you get there to when you can make a QSO? How long does it take?
I try to be max an hour. I find anything more than an hour, it's not fun anymore, basically. So my sweet spot is about 15, 20 minutes of hiking and about half an hour setup. And really, like I said, more than that, nah, I'm not really interested,
So did you go both days or just one day?
I went both days. I went Saturday and Sunday. It's dark. So CQ Worldwide, it's dark here when it starts, and so I didn't do anything. Friday, just in the afternoons and evenings, Saturday, Sunday.
So, Jason, you could obviously operate portably anywhere. Why do you choose to go to a Parks in the Air park?
Most of the places I would operate are considered parks in the air. Part of it is that if I'm going to set up somewhere, I want to be generally somewhere away from people. And to do that in an urban setting means basically hiking somewhere. And so it wasn't so much about being in a POTA park. That was more of like a byproduct of being somewhere without a ton of people around, and being somewhere where I had a good enough takeoff toward Europe and the U.S. And answer your question, Randy, do I have any goals? I wish I could say I did. My goal was to work, I think 500 was my goal. Just work a whole bunch of folks. That was pretty much it.
Now, it's true that you're not the loudest guy on the band, but I assume you rely on the RBN. I had to turn my antenna to work you. That's why I said that.
Oh,
but you...
Oh, man.
Well, maybe I'm not the loudest guy either. But so I assume you get on and you call CQ with the hopes that the RBN will spot you, and then that kind of gets things started.
You opened an interesting can there, several layers. Yes, I love doing CW contests from here because you've got, you said at the RBN, there's enough multi-ops that have skimmers and watch the RBN to where you immediately have a call pileup pretty much. For phone from here, honestly, is not fun because it's so dependent on spotting that you CQ 100-watt station running a couple elements. They're going to trickle in until you get spotted, which may or may not happen, especially in CQ Worldwide. Once you get spotted, you need to guard that frequency with your life because it may be a while before it happens again. I worked in ARRL. That was fun. I got on Saturday, not to change the subject, I got on Sunday evening for ARRL. I was on for 2.5 hours and worked, I think, 380 stations. I spent basically an hour, tried to spend an hour on each band. It didn't quite work out that way, but that was the goal.
I know when I see you show up as a spot that you're going to be easy to work because you're certainly able to do CW at a high speed.
I tried to thin the pile out on 20. 20 was mayhem, honestly. 10 and 15, everybody, it was nice and orderly. 20 there was not a lot of CE activity on 20, and it got chaotic right off the bat. Also, I was running a single vertical, so I wasn't that loud either, which I already know. So
yeah, well, I think the problem on 20 is everybody can hear each other. On 10 and 15, it was pretty clean because we couldn't hear the guys calling to you, but on 20, it's just too many loud signals, and everybody's developed the we're going to keep calling until no one else is calling.
So between Chris and Randy, who was louder?
Oh, Randy by a long shot because
he turned his antenna.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly right. And Chris didn't.
I don't have a hex speed.
I was looking at the log. We worked you on 15, so at least we got you in the log.
Yeah, I remember working. I remember you guys. You're probably S5, S7, maybe on 15. Not bad.
Yeah, it was at. All we were working then was South America, Caribbean, so it was slow.
So the park that you picked for ARRL versus the park that you were in for CQ, did you choose those just kind of based on what area of the world you wanted to work?
No, I didn't. I showed up the week before to the one I was at CQ Worldwide in, and the municipality had posted a park closed sign because of all the. We've had some wildfires here, and they listed out all of the consequences. And so I was like, I honestly, I considered. I was like, well, whatever.
Well,
Let's see me, what, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna try to follow the law here, and I ended up at probably what's actually a better location. Where I was for ARRL has about a 300-foot drop off toward the U.S. So tough is tough to beat,
yeah. So did you? I was going to ask you. So did you feel loud to the U.S., or was it sort of one of these things where even in ARRL you were kind of losing your frequency occasionally? And
10 was really spotty. I was loud to certain parts of the U.S. There's enough guys to work where it was never boring. I felt loud on 15. I worked all across the U.S. on 15 with no issues. 20, no, I never felt loud. I just I felt loud. I felt like I got spotted on 20. I wasn't watching the cluster, but it went from people calling to just pure pandemonium. That had to have been what happened.
do you actually have cell phone service where you typically operate at some of these parks, or is it really kind of off the beaten path?
Yes to both. Typically, I have cell phone service because I'm on top of a hill. But as far as like off the beaten path, I try to get off the beaten path. My goal is not to yuck it up with a bunch of folks. You know what I mean?
Do you ever get any unwanted attention from authorities or people kind of walking by and what are you doing? Are you talking aliens?
One of the place I was at CQ Worldwide, there's hikers and stuff come through. It's not unwanted, I would say. People are interested. They just wonder what all the tripods are doing everywhere and why you got all this stuff, That the new place, no, I don't have any yet. You've got to really hike in to find me. And so authority-wise, I would say things just kind of work differently here in that law enforcement is responsive. They're not proactive. It's just, if there's a problem, we'll show up. They're not there to patrol or do anything like that, really.
And no one called the cops on you.
No, I mean, yeah, certainly not.
So, Jason, what would you do differently next time?
One of the challenges here is 40 meters. And just because the trees that are here are, max like 15, 18 foot tall, you need a big extendable pole or tower or something like that if you're going to do 40. And I don't have that. And so you're kind of stuck with basically a base loaded vertical or something like that. And the thing is that 40 doesn't open until well after sunset. As far as doing stuff differently, on ARRL weekend, we have an annual conference here. And the problem is that I'm one of the hosts and I can't get loose from it. So that's why I was only on for Sunday.
Would you ever consider an overnight?
It's tough with 2 young kids. It's tough. I would love to do it, to be honest. I would love to do it. I'm pretty committed to being home in the evenings, at least at night. And to answer your question, yeah, I'd love to do it. And it's going to be a few years before that happens, probably.
What are you using for a radio?
I've got a Yaesu 891.
Do you only take one battery?
I've got 2 8-amp-hour batteries that I brought down from the States. That's the highest capacity that you can fly with. And then I bought another battery here, which is, it lasts a little bit longer, but it's a heavier battery. Those those BioNO batteries, the 8-amp-hour ones last about 2 hours. And then the bigger ones probably got about 6 on it or so.
How do you know do you have a way of monitoring to know when you're about to run out of battery, or do you just have the radio turn off?
I don't carry a bunch. There are ways. I don't tend to carry a bunch of extra weight and a bunch of gadgets up there. I start to see the screen start to dim when I'm transmitting. And I know I've got about a minute.
Oh, wow, that's not a little warning. Have you played with any solar panels or anything like that to stretch your batteries out?
I have in the States. I have not done any of that here, though. I do have interesting. I have a foldable solar panel in the States I want to bring down here next time.
So do you run 100 watts when you're on the battery, or do you turn it down?
No, I run 100. I need all of it.
Need every watt.
It's people seem like they romanticize, like, oh, I'm gonna QRP and a wire it. Man, that's good if you're in like the Midwest and it's in a QP.
More power to them.
Not from here, man. It's not. It's not fun.
What do you do for logging?
I've used N5NU for logging. So
with a laptop?
Yep, use a laptop. For ARRL, I never could get that. I've got a little DigiRig thing. It goes to the 891, and I never could get it. I got the cat control to work for the frequency, and I never got the code part. It never would send code, and so all of it was with them. There was 2 memory keys on the 891 that I was using, and then the rest of it was all hand sent.
Oh wow, more power to you. So do you have trouble? Is the part of the umbrella's purpose not only to keep the sun off you, but to make it so you can see the laptop?
Yeah, it's part of it too. Yeah, for sure.
So what are things that people do when the pileup is calling you? What do people do that's annoying?
Just the people that just keep calling and keep calling. It's the same stuff. I mean, that you guys go through. I would say the other thing is that this has been mentioned multiple times that everybody's 0 beats. I tend to listen up 200 hertz or a quarter kc or so, and pick off the full, try to get full calls if we can.
And by the way, for the audience, different guys have different preferences, and once you know them, you should use them. Like OA4SS is another guy who always listens a little bit off frequency. It just, once you kind of figure out what people respond to, it's worth using it, because otherwise, you're right, everybody's on one frequency, you don't hear anything.
Yeah, OA4SS has some really nasty pileups. I don't know what it is. Of course, he's easy to work from here, but yeah, he's got, it's really bad.
I know this is a lot of work for you every time, and you got to travel, you got to hike in, you got to set this up, you got batteries, all this stuff. Obviously, you must think it's worth it because you do it often, which is super cool to work you, because I see your Facebook stuff and we see the photos and it's super interesting. Do you see this as a gateway for people that maybe live in the Midwest and can get away with 5 watts in a wire and NAQP to stay active? And do you see this as being a possible category in other contests in a way to get the drum activity up?
It's interesting. I'll probably start with your last question, Chris. Not every contest, it should not be a category in every contest. We have enough sketchy stuff that happens in some of these contests already that we don't need to add another layer of it. I think it'd be fun. NAQP, using that as an example, I think that would be it'd be a fun category for NAQP. I think it'd probably just be experimental more than anything. As far as like DX contest, no, I mean, how do you separate that from like an expedition that has week to set up and they fly down metric ton of gear,
Yeah. What if it was like a separate contest, like an overlay, like not an overlay, but someone else organized it. And it was like, hey, I got 5 of my buddies from around here. We each have the same antenna. We're going to go out and see who can win in 4 hours of operating with a battery and a vertical, because they can't get on from home.
Yeah, it'd be fun to do. There's a lot of guys that can't do that, that can't get on. As far as like being like an entry or a gateway, I think there's a lot of folks that are already doing it. It seems like that the intersection between the people who like portable stuff and contesting is actually a pretty narrow sliver. There's a lot of portable people who hate contesting, and there's a lot of contesters that don't like going outside. So
it's true.
I can confirm that.
Yeah, Bill. What's interesting, and I'm probably just trying to force it here, but these guys that go portable, they're already competing against each other, and they're crazy like fanatical about it, and I love that. Um, it's just a different competition, right? I still see it as a competitive thing. These guys brag, oh, I put on 36 parks this week or in a day or whatever. I did this, and I'm chasing all these guys, and I worked all of these parks. There's a scoreboard, and there's all kinds of stuff. It's no different.
Maybe I'm not a very good POTA guy. That stuff doesn't interest me.
Well, I was going to ask.
It is a narrow sliver, like you said.
Very
It is a narrow. Okay, this might get edited out.
Oh no.
No, it won't now.
I hate hunting POTA from here because like 80% of them don't know what to do with my call sign.
Yeah, can't handle the
Are
portable.
Are you N5NU? I've gotten some. You might look at my Facebook. I got a really nasty email from a guy. It was like, he's like, "Are you in Texas?" I was like, "No." What do you think the CE3 means?
That's what we call an opening for education. Is what that is.
It's opportunity.
Opportunity for growth. I provided and I provided that opportunity for him on that day on 10 meters. I told him it was on the on his technician license exam. He should have already known it. I was already.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, man, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Anyway, I got an email about it, about what a jerk I was. And anyway, the guys that I know that know what a reciprocal call sign is, or they know me, I'll call them. But, a lot of the other guys, I don't even hunt them, honestly. I just
so as an activator, do you actually register like on a big contest weekend on POTA.app and say that you're activating this park? And do you get some people that aren't in the contest calling you, or is it just I CQ'd, RBN found me, and it's all the multis call me at once?
I don't actually register the activations on beforehand for contest weekends. First of all, I feel like it would probably put me in a different category. I just don't feel super. I don't feel super good about it. The other thing is that a lot of times they don't want to give you the exchange anyway, so it just kind of just infuriates everybody.
I see.
I've got enough.
By the way, announcing your operations before the contest does not put you in any different category. It is a perfectly valid thing to do. So, don't want anybody to walk away with the wrong impression.
The way that their site is set up is that if you register your operation, once you CQ, it registers onto they have their own their internal cluster essentially, and I would say it does. I felt like it just kind of towed the line, and there are folks that hunt anyway. There's enough, like you said, there's enough multis to get the ball rolling, so it's not really too big an issue.
I would think being spotted on the POTA network, to call it, no different than RBN. So I wouldn't feel bad about that. And given the fact that you're sitting in a park with 100 watts and a piece of wire, just take all the
you didn't win.
you can get.
Yeah.
Until you start beating people, then it's a problem.
Yeah. That's it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The reality is I'm not going to win anything from here. So it's fun giving out the multiplier, and it's fun hearing some of the crazy propagation that's from here. I had a JT1CO call me in CQ Worldwide, and I recorded it because he was 20 over 9 on the meter. And I don't know what path that was. I was working US and a few JAs trickling in, and then I don't know, long path or over the pole, whatever it was crazy. I hear India here regularly, like 1 or 2 in the afternoon. In fact, I think I published it somewhere during I think it was 2 years ago during CQ Worldwide. I worked Hong Kong Victor Radio 2 pop-up, at 2 in the afternoon here. It's like, and he's like loud, man. It just, to me, that's just part of the joy of radio. Just hearing some of the crazy openings that you hear from different parts of the world. That mystique has never left.
Yeah, that's magic.
Oh, that's the best. Yeah, that's awesome.
I was gonna say, I think I worked 8 Chinese from on 10 meters from here, in CQ Worldwide, and that's man. I don't work 8 Chinese from the States with a Yagi amplifier, not from Texas, you know.
Well, China's another country where it's so hard to operate from apartments or from home that there's a lot of guys who go out and do portable, and they're not very loud. So that's why there's such a challenge for us. But there's something magical about being near the equator or just, not too far from the equator, that just makes everything different. So I can imagine. Now, one thing earlier we were describing all these different interest groups. It really sounded like a Venn diagram. There were a bunch of there's crossovers, but it seems like there's a bunch of different camps, and it's probably true of everything in ham radio. There's people who love something and people who hate something, and then there's all different things that intersect with that. It's too bad that we can't just get on and have fun. And I love the fact that you can get on in a contest, and even guys who aren't in the contest seem to figure it out and call you and give you an exchange. And it's like, okay, great. We both had fun. You made a QSO. I made a QSO. We exchanged something that may be meaningful or not, but we both got to move on.
Right. Well, even within POTA, there's different camps. There's guys who enjoy driving their truck in with their ham sticks on it and making 10, 15 contacts and leaving. That, to me, that's not interesting. I don't get joy out of doing that. I like being outside, and I like trying to have a good signal. And that's part of the fun of it is just pushing yourself. And like you said, Randy, there's something in it for everybody,
No, I think it's super cool.
I do too.
Yeah,
it's super
Jason,
neat.
send Kevin some pictures that he can splice into the discussion here, because I think
that JT1CO video would be cool.
I will. I'll send some pictures. I think I have 127 countries from here portable.
Whoa!
So I've got all the states on 10 and 15. I think I need Vermont on 20.
I'm going to guess that's without using FT-8.
No, I don't.
Man, these POTA guys don't contest or do FT-8? Do they even ham radio?
Man.
It's funny. This is a kind of a sidebar to this. I made my first FT-8 contacts from here a few months ago. So I knew we were having a baby. I was going to be home a lot. I've got a 10-meter ham stick stuck onto a direct TV dish outside outside the apartment. And so you won't believe what I've worked running 20 watts to a 10-meter ham stick on a dish.
Does the DirecTV work while you're transmitting?
I don't even have it hooked up, so.
Oh, okay. Doesn't matter. It's awesome.
I worked.
You just put
really
your
cool.
finger on the attraction and why it's so hard for people to avoid, because you just don't need as much antenna and you don't need super quiet, and you can still get the thrill of working people.
I worked K3LR with it on board.
Whoa!
It was not on FT-8.
Okay.
Yeah, not on
Yeah,
FT-8.
I had to think about that for a second. Like, okay, I'm pretty sure.
Wait a second here.
Let me clarify.
Tim has some secret life we don't know about.
I got receipts.
Cut that out, Kevin. Don't.
I'm going to be cutting out a lot of this.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of work moving words forward and backwards.
Yeah.
Right.
It's okay.
Jason, I appreciate you spending some time with us from Chile.
Oh, thank you for having me on here, Kevin. Sorry, it's kind of scatterbrained.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Oh, you fit right in.
Yeah, it's totally fine, man.
My name is Kevin Thomas. W1DED. This is Q5 Ham Radio. Thank you for joining us. 73.